Welcome back to Medinare. In this video, let's continue to discuss about the case history in orthodontics. Among the 4 categories of case history, we discuss the purpose of asking personal identification data to each patient, and in this part, we'll move on to the history. Chief complaint. Any case history record commences by asking the chief complaint. And we know the drill, right? Chief complaint is the actual reason behind the patient's visit to a doctor. It should be recorded in patient's own words and it should not include any medical term. By getting to know the chief complaint, the clinician identifies the priorities and desires of the patient. Now, this can be a viva question in your practicals. What are the common chief complaints that patient tells you in orthodontics? The most common ones are forwardly placed teeth, irregularly placed teeth, crowded teeth, gummy smile, delayed tooth eruption, space in between teeth in general, or space in between the front teeth, which is midline diastema. Next, moving on to the history of presenting illness. History of presenting illness is the chronological account of the disease. In orthodontics, this section is concerned with knowing about when it leads to disturbances or when it affects the facial aesthetics of the patient, like while talking, smiling, or laughing. We also need to ask about any traumatic incident involving the teeth that has happened in the childhood, because if one or more teeth are already non-vital but asymptomatic or undergoing any pathological changes, orthodontic treatment on those teeth can actually exacerbate the periapical symptoms. Moving on to the evaluation of dental history. By evaluating this, we get an insight on patients' dental hygiene practices, nature of the past dental treatment, and patient's attitude towards them. We should ask about any history of extraction. If the patient says yes, then the time and reason for extraction is also noted. Age of eruption of deciduous and permanent teeth, along with the history of any decay, restoration, trauma to the dentition, and details of any previous appliance therapy is also collected. Evaluation of medical history. Before starting orthodontic treatment or any treatment for that matter, we need relevant description of patient's health status from birth till the moment he or she enters the dental clinic. History of any past illness or immunization or any known allergy, and current treatment that the patient is undergoing, medications that the patients are taking currently, or any recent hospitalization or surgery history is noted. Okay, so why do we need to know the medical history? It is important because we could be able to identify any diseases that are affecting the dental treatment. We can also identify any systemic diseases with oral manifestations, and in case if we find any systemic disease, we can give pre-medications to the patient's prior dental treatment if needed. Also, clinician or the doctor who is treating the patient can be protected from cross-infection, and the physiological state of the patient is noted. It can also be used in case of any medico-legal identification. Now let's see some common medical problems and how it affects orthodontic treatment. Firstly, we have blood rhizchasias. Here, orthodontic treatment is not contraindicated. It can be done but with precautions. Special management is needed for the patient if extraction is indicated. Hemophilia A is one of the commonly encountered blood disorders in dental practice. If extraction is advised in this patient, factor VIII concentrate infusion is needed before extraction. And also, we should be very careful in treating the patient. We should avoid any irritation to the gingiva, lips, or cheeks from the orthodontic appliance. And also, we should carefully insert and remove arch wires in order to avoid any injury to the oral soft tissues. Using elastobaric ligatures over wire ligatures to secure the arch wire is preferred in order to reduce the risk of irritation to soft tissues. The next common medical condition is diabetes. Orthodontic treatment is possible, but we need to carefully monitor the patient during treatment because periodontal breakdown is accentuated by orthodontic forces in such patients. Therefore, prolonged treatment is avoided. Also, we can follow certain steps like giving them early morning appointments and also by advising them to have their normal meal and medication before the appointment. Also, we need to stress the importance of maintaining good oral hygiene in these patients. Cardiac problems are also common these days. So, antibiotic coverage or antibiotic prophylaxis is needed prior bleeding inducing procedures such as band placement, band removal, or extraction. Also, use of chlorhexidine mouthwash before orthodontic procedure can also be beneficial. Also, epilepsy can be handled by avoiding removable orthodontic appliance due to risk of airway obstruction during seizures. Also, because of the risk of damage to the mouth from the broken appliance during an attack of epilepsy, it is advisable to delay the orthodontic treatment in patients suffering from epilepsy until it is controlled. So, it is very simple that removable appliances are not advised. Fixed appliances are preferred. It is better to delay orthodontic treatment during pregnancy, and if conception occurs during treatment, it should be managed carefully. The next thing we need to ask is if the patient has any allergy to medications or materials or latex, because sometimes in orthodontics, we might face some patients with nickel allergy. Because nickel is present in a number of orthodontic materials like nickel titanium arch wires, for example. So, patient with defined history of nickel allergy should be treated with caution, and some alternative nickel-free bracket materials like ceramic, polycarbonate, titanium and gold should be substituted. Moving on to the evaluation of drug history. Medications have influence on the rate of tooth movement in orthodontics. Steroids. Steroids can cause periodontal breakdown or periodontal problem during orthodontic treatment. Patients on steroid therapy may have reduced resistance to stress and may lead to problems in tolerating orthodontic stress. Both children and adults who take analgesics can face difficulty in tooth movement. So just in case if any pain occurs due to the tooth movement, paracetamol is recommended among all other analgesics. Anticonvulsants also affect tooth movement because they are known to cause gingival hyperplasia. So now let's see some of the drugs which induce tooth movement, which reduce tooth movement and which are known to affect tooth movement. So drugs which induce tooth movement are thyroxine, parathyroid hormones and corticosteroid hormones. Drugs which reduce movement of the tooth are aspirin, estrogen and bisphosphonates. And drugs which affect the tooth movement in general are antibiotics like tetracycline and doxycyclines, antidepressants like amitriptyline, antimalarial drugs like quinine and chloroquine, and other drugs like procaine and phenytoin. Next, we also need to inquire about prenatal history, where we will collect the information on condition of mother during pregnancy and the type of delivery of the baby, which is either forceps delivery, and also about teratogens. Teratogens are nothing but any chemical agent or any other agent which crosses the placental barrier and produces embryological defect. Now let's see some teratogens which are orthodontically significant. Aspirin, Valium and Dilatin can cause cleft lip and cleft palate. 6-mercaptopurine can lead to cleft palate of the child. Thalidomide, if taken by the mom during pregnancy, can cause hemifacial macrosomia in the child, and if excess vitamin D is there, it can lead to premature suture closure. And these are some examples of teratogens. Also, we need to inquire about the postnatal history, where the type and duration of feeding is noted, milestones of natural development, and presence of any oral habits is also noted. Next, we'll record the family history in order to assess the presence of any inherited disease pattern or trait. It should record the details of existing malocclusion in other family members. Skeletal class 2 malocclusion, class 3 malocclusion, cleft lip, cleft palate. These are the examples which can get inherited. Next, we need to evaluate genetic history. We should try to identify any genetic cause of malocclusion or hereditary transmission of malocclusion. Mobius syndrome, Perry-Robin syndrome, and mandibulofacial dysostosis can lead to class 2 malocclusion. And Gordon syndrome, Down syndrome, Marfan syndrome, and craniofacial dysostosis can lead to class 3 malocclusion. And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you guys found it helpful. Do like this video and subscribe to Medinare for more. Thanks for watching.